At 5:42 a.m. local time, two U.S. Navy MH-60 Romeo Seahawks roared skyward from the decks of the USS Philippine Sea and USS Mason. Their call signs were Viper 7-1 and Viper 7-2. Their mission was simple but vital: provide overwatch for a convoy threading the dangerous waters of the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, where the southern Red Sea narrows into a funnel of global commerce. It was a place where tankers, freighters, and patrol ships rubbed shoulders with danger every sunrise. Before we begin, make sure to hit the like button. It helps us beat the YouTube algorithm. The centerpiece of this convoy was the MV Blue Atlas, a Panama-flagged container ship with millions of dollars in electronics stacked high on her deck. A small security detail manned hardened turret positions with M4 carbines and a single M240 machine gun bolted aft. Brave men, but their weapons were little more than firecrackers compared to what was coming. From the haze of the Yemeni coast, something lethal was already on the move. 5 sleek skiffs burst from behind the coastal shallows, their bows punching through the chop like blades. Each measured between 7 and 10 meters, throttles wide open, engines shrieking at 40 knots. Fighters crouched low behind the gunwales, armed with PKM machine guns, AK-47 rifles, and shoulder-fired RPG-7s with thermobaric warheads. Worse, the skiffs carried compact satellite terminals, each feeding real-time updates from drones and coastal spotters. Before we continue, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. At 5:44, Blue Atlas transmitted a terse distress call. Suspicious contacts approaching. Request immediate assistance. The message lit up the task force net. Viper 7-1 acknowledged with steady calm. Both Seahawks banked hard and accelerated to 160 knots, their engines straining as they cut the closure time. Even at that speed, they would need nearly 9 minutes. The merchantman would not last that long without help. The MH-60's AN/APS-1 53 radar flicked to life, sweeping the sea surface in moving target indicator mode. Out of the background clutter of waves came the unmistakable echoes of 5 moving contacts. Inverse synthetic aperture processing sharpened the returns into grainy but clear silhouettes. 5 fast craft, converging in a wedge formation. Each boat carried hotspots at the stern, where the engines glowed bright through infrared. The hunters were closing in fast. Why this matters? At low altitude, small boats can vanish into the sea's noise. The radar's moving target indicator confirmed motion. ISR built a shape, and the Seahawk's electro-optical turret stitched the image into reality. With each new confirmation, the aircrews built certainty. The final piece came from ESM, which sniffed out digital chatter from those satellite rigs. Someone ashore was coaching this swarm in real time. By 5:47, the boat split into 2 elements, 3 attacking on the starboard quarter, 2 angling from port. The security team on Blue Atlas opened fire with their M240, brass clattering on the deck. At 1,800 meters, their tracers lanced out, punching spray from the leading boat's bow. The skiff staggered, corrected, and pressed on. Then came the flash. An RPG-7 rocket streaked skyward, detonating with a thunderclap just short of the superstructure. The bridge windows rattled. Crewmen ducked. It was a warning shot, but the next would be fatal. The call came over guard. Blue Atlas, maintain speed and heading. Coalition aircraft inbound. Hold your fire lines clear. The rules of engagement were strict, but once hostile intent was clear, RPGs fired at a civilian hull. The order followed fast. Viper flight, weapons free on hostile small craft. Deconfliction active. Now the Seahawks could act. The helicopters dropped to 150 feet above the waves, offsetting left and right to keep arcs clean. And AL-47 dispensers spat strings of flares and chaff, glowing magnesium streaks against the dawn in case a shoulder-fired missile appeared from nowhere. The gunners leaned into their GAU 2150 caliber machine guns, each weapon capable of spitting 1,100 rounds per minute, its tracers bright against the morning sky. At 5:49, Viper 7-1's gunner called the shot. Short, disciplined bursts laced into the nearest skiff's engine block. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds chewed through steel, igniting fuel. The boat erupted in fire, rolling onto its side before slipping beneath the waves. The fighters aboard never had time to lift their rifles. In less than 45 seconds, one boat was gone. Viper 7-2 swung wide and raked the second skiff. The first burst shredded the rudder. The second stitched the hull beneath the waterline. The boat slewed broadside, took on water, and capsized. Fighters tumbled into the sea, their weapons useless. The convoy was still under threat, but now the odds were shifting. The security team on Blue Atlas cheered, their morale soaring as firepower they could only dream of arrived above their heads. The third skiff pressed close, spraying wild arcs of PKM fire skyward. Tracer zipped past Viper 7-1's rotor disc by mere meters. The door gunner held steady, waited for a clean backdrop, then unleashed a long burst. Dozens of rounds tore through the engine compartment and fuel lines. Flames blossomed. The skiff shuddered, slowed, and then disappeared beneath the surface. 3 down. The odds had just flipped from deadly to desperate. The fourth skiff fired another RPG-7, its warhead smashing into the water just aft of Blue Atlas's port quarter, sending up a geyser. The shockwave reverberated through the merchantman's hull, but before it could line up another shot, both Seahawks rolled into firing position. Crossfire stitched the boat in seconds. The fighters abandoned ship, splashing into the Red Sea as their craft settled stern first and vanished. The last skiff saw the slaughter and chose survival. It yanked hard away from the convoy, its wake a frantic white scar. Smoke billowed from its cowling where rounds had clipped metal. The Seahawks held discipline and did not pursue. Their job was not revenge. It was protection. They settled into a protective arc around Blue Atlas, weapons hot, eyes tracking, mission accomplished. The convoy still steamed on course, unbroken. By 5:52, Jones fell again. In under 8 minutes, 3 skiffs were sunk, 1 disabled, and 1 fleeing. Roughly 1,500 rounds had been fired. Blue Atlas remained intact, her crew shaken but alive. The Seahawks orbited steady, waiting for the next phase. Overhead, a P-8A Poseidon monitored the corridor, dropping sonobuoys into the channel. High above, an E-2D Hawkeye stitched the air picture into perfect order. Deterrence without consequence is only half a lesson. That afternoon, USS Mason shifted to a carefully plotted shorefire plan. Her Mark 45 Mod 4 naval gun opened up, 70-pound shells hammering coastal radar sites near Mocha and Ras Isa. Dust plumes and broken antennas marked the aftermath. Those radars had been the swarm's eyes, feeding coordinates to the skiffs. Now they were rubble, their operators blind to the sea lanes. By nightfall, the punishment escalated. 4 FA-18E Super Hornets from the Eisenhower thundered into the dusk sky, each armed with AGM-154 C-joint standoff weapons. These glide bombs carried Broach warheads, capable of punching through nearly 4 meters of reinforced concrete. Their target, a hardened warehouse holding missiles, drones, and fuel. At 1843, all 4 weapons struck, detonating with massive secondary explosions. Intelligence confirmed the destruction of multiple attack drones, anti-ship missiles, and critical guidance kits. Intercepts suggested Iranian advisors had been killed alongside local operators. The strike was not symbolic, it was calculated. The message was clear. Harassing global trade would not just fail in the moment, it would invite punishment long after the attack ended. Escalation had a price, and the US was willing to exact it. By 2100, the sea lanes looked almost ordinary again. The Blue Atlas pressed east, crew shaken but safe. Viper 7-1 and 7-2 returned to deck, boots crunching on spent brass casings, logbooks filled with precise times and bearings. The lesson was not written in explosions, but in professionalism. The helicopters had fired only what they needed, protected the merchant, and kept restraint when revenge tempted. Professional seamanship is not the absence of power, it is control of it. In the narrow waters of the Bab al-Mandeb, seconds decide whether a freighter becomes a hostage or a headline. On this morning, seconds were bought back by calm voices, disciplined gunners, and a pair of Seahawks that proved again why control of the sea depends on those willing to act fast and think faster. By dawn the following day, coalition commanders were already dissecting the attack. Analysts noted the presence of compact satellite terminals on the skiffs, a clear sign of Iranian fingerprints. These devices allowed real-time coordination from shore-based observers and overhead drones. The doctrine was not random piracy. It was asymmetric naval warfare, designed to stretch thin the defenses of every merchant vessel daring to cross the strait. U.S. Central Command moved quickly to ensure the message of deterrence was unmistakable. Surveillance drones orbited above suspected staging areas, relaying live video feeds to ships and aircraft. Electronic intelligence platforms cataloged every emission on the Yemeni coast, from handheld radios to radar sweeps. Within hours, a new target set emerged: command nodes, fuel depots, and missile storage hidden along the shoreline. By the afternoon of Day 2, USS Philippine Sea shifted position closer to the Yemeni coast. Under cover of darkness, her Tomahawk strike modules unlocked and began their launch cycle. Dozens of cruise missiles erupted from the ship's vertical launch system, each one streaking low across the sea surface before climbing over the horizon. Their programmed waypoints threaded valleys and coastlines until they found their assigned targets. The strikes were devastating. Missile warehouses detonated in a chain reaction, scattering secondary explosions for nearly 30 minutes. Command posts hidden inside warehouses were obliterated, leaving smoldering ruins and silenced radios. Fuel depots erupted in towering fireballs visible from miles offshore. For the fighters who had once believed they could strike and vanish, the retaliation showed that nowhere was truly safe. Meanwhile, the civilian mariners aboard Blue Atlas shared their side of the story. Crew members described the moment the RPG detonated off their port quarter, how glass rattled and fear surged, and how relief flooded the bridge when the Seahawks appeared. They praised the professionalism of the small Trident security team, who bought those precious minutes with only rifles and grit. For them, the rescue would become a story told for years. The Seahawk crews debriefed aboard their respective ships. Gunners described the precise bursts, how they avoided overspray against the merchant, and how discipline under fire made the difference. The pilots detailed the radar modes used, the transition from moving target indicator to ISAR, and the confidence built when every sensor confirmed the same threat. It was a textbook display of layered detection and rapid response. Strategists studying the battle saw more than just a skirmish. They saw proof that even small, low-cost threats could endanger the arteries of global trade if left unanswered. They also saw the power of combining intelligence, air cover, and disciplined crews into a seamless shield. In less than 10 minutes, a situation that could have spiraled into a hostage crisis was turned into a decisive victory without a single coalition casualty. The lesson was simple but stark. Attacking global shipping in the Red Sea was not just risky, it was suicidal. Every skiff destroyed, every radar silenced, every warehouse leveled sent the same message. The sea lanes would be defended with precision and persistence. Those who tried to disrupt them would lose not just their boats, but their infrastructure, their stockpiles, and their confidence. As the convoy pressed onward toward the Gulf of Aden, the radio chatter finally quieted. For the crews aboard the Blue Atlas and her escorts, the Red Sea had proven itself once again as both a lifeline and a battleground. And for the Seahawk pilots who had ridden the dawn into fire, the mission ended not with celebration, but with the calm satisfaction of professionals who had done their duty and bought peace for one more day. In the following weeks, shipping traffic through the Bab al-Mandeb resumed its steady pulse. Freighters from Europe, tankers from the Gulf, and container ships bound for Asia all passed through waters where just days earlier, smoke had curled into the sky. Naval patrols became more visible, aircraft more present, and the knowledge spread quickly among would-be attackers that coalition vigilance had sharpened, not weakened. For the sailors aboard the Eisenhower Strike Group, the fight was already being distilled into lessons and checklists. Intelligence teams built new profiles of enemy boat formations, pilots ran simulator drills based on the exact minutes of the battle, and surface commanders adjusted their patrol lanes. Every clash, no matter how brief, became a building block in a larger wall of deterrence. Experience was currency, and it was being banked. For the Seahawk crews themselves, The mission became another entry in the long history of naval aviation saving ships from disaster. The door gunners remembered the smell of cordite mixing with salt spray. The pilots remembered the blur of tracers arcing past the rotor disc, and all remembered the relief in the merchant crew's voices when the danger had passed. These memories were not trophies. They were reminders of why training mattered. By the end of the month, coalition assessments reported a 60% reduction in hostile activity near the southern Red Sea. Satellite images showed destroyed radar sites and empty staging areas. Intercepts revealed frantic enemy commanders trying to explain to their backers why dozens of expensive drones, missiles, and skiffs had been lost in days. The message had landed, commerce would flow, and those who tried to choke it would pay dearly. The Red Sea has always been more than a body of water. It is a lifeline where trillions in trade pass each year, a chessboard where nations test resolve, and a proving ground for those who guard the sea. On that morning, 2 helicopters and their crews proved again why control of the air means control of the sea, and why discipline can turn chaos into clarity in the span of minutes. Professional seamanship is not about overwhelming force. It is about measured action, perfect timing, and restraint sharpened into power. The world rarely sees these moments, but for those on deck, in cockpits, or behind the glass of a combat information center, they are the difference between crisis and calm. The Blue Atlas sailed on, her crew alive, her cargo safe, because professionals did their job when it mattered most. Remember to hit like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means a lot.